The complimentous Carson was not special. He was just a human mechanic working in the lower decks of the Valexis trade station, floating far above a red dwarf star in a quiet corner of the galaxy. Every day was the same. He repaired old cargo, doors, replaced fusion cores, cleaned coolant leaks, and avoided getting in trouble with the station's strict alien staff. Most of them didn't like humans. They thought humans were messy, loud, and unpredictable. Jace didn't care. He just wanted peace and a quiet paycheck. That morning, the cafeteria was unusually quiet. Jace walked in wearing his grease-stained uniform and sat alone with his food cube tray. The food was tasteless, some mix of alien protein and algae paste, but it kept him going. He looked around and saw her again, the same girl he had noticed every day for the past 2 weeks. She was unlike any other alien on the station. Tall, graceful, with soft violet skin that shimmered under the artificial lights. She had 6 delicate tentacles flowing from her head like a crown of living silk. They moved slowly in the air, responding to her emotions, her thoughts. She never spoke much, just came in, took her seat in the far corner, and quietly ate her meal alone. Her name tag reads Alexa. Jace had always thought she was interesting. Not just her appearance, but the way she sat, so silent, so elegant, like someone carrying a heavy secret. And today, for some reason, he decided to talk to her. He picked up his tray and walked over to her table. She looked up, clearly surprised. Her tentacles shifted in the air, curling slightly. "Mind if I sit here?" Jace asked. Alexa hesitated. Then she nodded once, not saying a word. Jace smiled and sat down across from her. For a few seconds, they just ate in silence. The atmosphere felt strange, but calm. Then, without thinking too much, Jace said the words that would change everything. "Your tentacles look great today." He meant it as a compliment, something casual and polite, the way humans might say someone had a nice haircut or good clothes. But the moment the words left his mouth, the air around them changed. Alexa froze, her spoon slipped from her fingers, the tentacles above her head went completely still. Her eyes widened not with happiness, but with pure shock. All around the cafeteria, alien heads turned. A blue-skinned merchant gasped. 2 reptilian guards at the far table stood up suddenly, their hands reaching for their arms. A group of insectoid diplomats whispered to each other rapidly in their clicking language. Jace blinked, confused. He looked at Alexa. "Did I say something wrong?" Alexa opened her mouth, tried to speak, but no sound came out. Her cheeks darkened to a deep shade of indigo. Her eyes fluttered. And then, slowly, she collapsed forward onto the table, fainting completely. "Hey!" Jace stood up, alarmed. "Alexa, are you okay?" But before he could touch her, a loud alarm blared through the cafeteria. Security doors slammed shut. From every corner, armed station guards appeared, weapons raised. "Human!" One of the guards shouted. "Step away from the princess." "Princess," Jace said, stepping back. "What are you talking about?" "I just said, you uttered the bonding phrase," another guard growled. "You proposed to her, before witnesses, in the sacred tongue." "What? No, I just said her tentacles looked nice. That's not a proposal." But no one was listening. 4 guards surrounded him. One yanked his arms behind his back, locked his wrists with magnetic cuffs. Another scanned his ID chip. Another scanned Alexa's body to check her vital signs. "She's alive. Her vitals are stable," the medic confirmed, but her neural response shows complete emotional overload. "She accepted the bond." "I didn't propose," Jace shouted. "I swear, it was just a compliment." But the guards didn't care. They dragged him out of the cafeteria as confused voices buzzed around him. Everyone stared, some in awe, some in horror. Jace's mind raced. What just happened? How could a simple compliment lead to this? What did they mean by the bonding phrase? And why did they call her a princess? They threw him into a detention cell, cold and dark. A holographic barrier flickered to life, locking him in. Outside the cell, 2 guards stood watch. Jace sat on the bench, hands shaking slightly. He had never been in trouble before, not even back on Earth. And now he was a prisoner for saying something nice. He leaned back against the wall and stared at the ceiling. "Great job, Jace," he muttered. "Compliment the alien girl, and accidentally marry her." He didn't know it yet, but things were about to get a whole lot worse. "That alien laws and dangerous." Words. The cell door opened with a loud hiss and bright white light spilled into the room, blinding Jace for a moment. A tall figure entered wearing dark robes and a crown of glowing rings above her head. She had 4 arms, 2 of which held a glowing scroll, and the other 2 were behind her back. Behind her came 2 more guards carrying long pole-like weapons. They looked serious, not angry but official, like this was something they had done many times. The robed woman stepped forward and looked at Jace for a long time, her expression unreadable. Her skin was pale green with faint blue symbols running down her cheeks. Her eyes were bright silver, glowing gently. Human male, you stand accused of initiating a formal soul bond with the Lixa, daughter of the royal house of Vellum. Her voice echoed inside the cell, as if it were being amplified by the very air around them. Jace blinked, confused, still sitting on the cold bench. Soul bond, what does that even mean? I didn't propose anything, I just said her tentacles looked nice. You used the ancient bonding phrase, the woman said again, her voice calm but firm. In her culture, in her language, that phrase is sacred. It is never spoken casually, it is never said without purpose. It is a declaration of life union before the gods of her people. Jace stood up now, more nervous than ever. I swear I didn't know. I didn't mean anything like that. I'm just a mechanic. I fix fusion pipes and ventilation units. I don't even know. The woman walked closer. This is not just a romantic matter, it is political. Her house holds a fragile treaty with 2 other alien empires. If a bonding is made and then dishonored, it could cause war across 3 star systems. Jace swallowed hard. That can't be happening. Over a compliment, this is madness for them. It is tradition, she replied. The Lixa is not only royal, she is considered sacred, a chosen vessel of peace among the Velen tribes. The fact that she did not reject the bond immediately means she accepted it. On instinct, the guards behind her shifted but remained silent. The robed woman lowered the scroll and unrolled it slowly. Your name is Jace Carson. Of Earth, you have no criminal record, no military ties, and no diplomatic protection. You are a civilian, with no political standing, therefore your actions are judged by local logists. Rubbed his head. This must be a nightmare. Can't we just explain to her it was all a mistake? She understand, right? She may understand, but her clan may not. The woman's voice was softer now, but more serious. The eyes of her people are on you now. If you reject the bond publicly, it may shame her deeply. That shame could lead to consequences beyond personal feelings. What kind of consequences? Jace asked, nervously. She turned her glowing gaze toward him. Some clans practiced blood oaths, some demand trials by sacrifice, some might simply demand your exile from all Velen space, others may hunt you down out of Norgis sat down slowly, his heart racing. This can't be real. I didn't ask for any of this. You have 2 choices, the woman said formally. You may honor the bond, participate in the rites, and become her intended. Or you may reject it, face the consequences, and leave this system forever. That's not a choice, that's a trap, Jace muttered. There's one more option, the woman added with hesitation. If the girl herself calls off the bond of her own will, then the matter is closed. No punishment, no danger, but she must speak the words in front of the ruling elders. Jace looked up hopefully. Where is she? Can I talk to her? She is recovering in the sacred chambers, the woman said. She suffered deep emotional shock. Her kind do not experience affection often, and when they do, it overwhelms them. She believed you understood her language. She believed the bond was real. Algis S. heart sank. He hadn't meant to hurt her. He hadn't meant to cause any trouble. But now, a kind, shy, alien girl thought he had chosen her, when all he had done was try to be nice. The robed woman looked at him again. I will arrange for you to see her, but be careful. Words matter in her world more than anything else. The guards led him through shining halls filled with floating symbols and soft music. The walls were smooth like melted glass, glowing with strange lights. Aliens of all shapes passed by, staring at him, some with curiosity, some with judgment. Finally, they reached a silver door which opened silently. Inside, the room was soft and warm, filled with floating orbs of light. The Lixa sat on a cushioned platform, her tentacles drooping slightly. Her violet skin looked dim, and her eyes were Sausages stepped forward gently. The Lixa, her eyes opened slowly, and when she saw him, a strange mix of emotions crossed her face: surprise, sadness, and something else. Hope. Maybe you came, she said softly. Her voice was like music in water. Jace nodded. I came to explain. I didn't mean to bond with you. I didn't know the words meant that. She looked down. I thought you did. I thought you were brave enough to speak it in front of so many. I felt something real. Just hesitated. I don't know what to do. They say if I walk away it will cause trouble. They say you could end it if you choose. Alexa stood up slowly, her eyes glowing faintly. Would you have said it if you knew what it meant? I just looked into her eyes for a long moment. I don't know. Maybe I would have, maybe not, but now I know. You're more than just a quiet girl in the corner, and I can't walk away like none of this matters. She didn't say anything. Her tentacles moved gently in the air, curling toward him. Jace took a breath. I'm not ready for bonding, but I'm not ready to leave either. Can we just talk, please? Alexa looked at him for a long second, then slowly nodded. Yes, we can talk, but outside the chamber, unseen by both of them, a shadow moved in silence, an alien creature with dark red eyes watching from the Howland. It was not there to talk to Lex's hidden truth inside the sacred chamber. The air felt thick with quiet tension. Jace sat on the edge of a low-cushioned bench while Thelixa remained standing in front of him, her eyes deep and unreadable. Her tentacles moved gently in the warm light, curling like seaweed in still water. The floating orbs above them cast soft shadows across the silver walls, making everything feel surreal like a dream. He was not supposed to enter. Thelixa broke the silence first. I never expected anyone to speak the phrase, not here, not a human, not someone like you. Jace frowned. I keep hearing that someone like me. What does that mean exactly? She sat down across from him, resting her arms on her knees, looking smaller and more human than before. It means someone who does not know our ways, does not follow our customs, someone who is not trained to play these games of status and meaning. I never meant to play any games, Jace said. I was just trying to be friendly. I didn't know a compliment could start a war. It is not your fault, Alexa said, but in our world words are sacred. They carry meaning beyond sound. They carry history, intention, soul. My people believe speech connects hearts, and when you spoke to me in that way in our ancient dialect, it awakened something I had buried for a long time. Jace leaned forward, curious. What do you mean buried? Alexa hesitated, then looked into his eyes with a seriousness that made his skin prickle. You should know the truth. I am not only a royal daughter, I am the last of my bloodline. My family was wiped out by a rival faction over a political disagreement, masked as a sacred betrayal. They called us weak dreamers because we wanted peace. She stood slowly, walked to the glowing wall and placed her palm on it. The wall responded with a soft hum, showing faint images: a tall, alien man holding a child, a woman with kind eyes seated on a throne, a group of guards falling in battle. These are my memories, she said softly. I escaped because a loyal servant hid me on a cargo ship. I was smuggled to this station under the name of a minor house. They thought if I stayed quiet, they would forget me, but you never forgot yourself, Jace said, standing beside her. No, she replied. I trained myself to survive, to avoid being noticed, to silence my emotions. And then you walked into my world with grease on your hands and a compliment that cut deeper than a laser. Bladages felt a strange mixture of guilt and admiration. I never meant to stir all this up, but now that I have, I don't want to walk away without helping. You already helped more than you know, she said. Her tentacles touched his arm gently, not as a bond, but as gratitude. You reminded me that I am still alive, that I can still feel something beyond duty and fear. Jace looked at her closely. You don't want to go back to your people, do you know? She whispered. I want to choose my own future, not live the one written for me by war and sorrow. Jace nodded slowly. I don't know much about royal politics or sacred laws, but I know what it feels like to be trapped in a life that doesn't feel like your own. I joined this station to escape Earth, not because I hated home, but because I didn't belong there. Everyone wanted me to be something I wasn't. Alexa turned to face him, her expression soft for the first time since they met. Maybe that is why your words touched me. They were not royal, they were not calculated, they were honest. Suddenly, a loud sound echoed through the hallway outside the chamber, a sharp pulse followed by shouting and the unmistakable hum of energy. We Princess and Alexa turned at the same time. Their moment broken. Stay here, she said, her voice sharp again, filled with tension. Like hell I will, Jace replied, and followed her out the chamber door. The corridor outside was in chaos. Guards were firing down the hallway. A dark figure moved between columns, fast and silent. One of the guards collapsed, another screamed as a sharp object pierced his armor. It's a crimson shade, Alexa gasped. They were assassins used by my family's enemies. They should not be here. Why are they here now? Jace asked, pulling her back behind cover. Because they know I am alive again, she said. They felt the bond, the ceremony, the energy was released into the old networks. Now they come to silence me before the bond becomes official. Then we run, Jace said, grabbing her hand. No, she pulled away. If I run now, they will follow me forever. They must be stopped or I will never be free. Just looked around. He spotted an old emergency shaft near the corner of the hallway, sealed but not locked. For someone who knew the manual override, he ran toward it, dodging blasts. The leaks are close behind. He opened the panel and began working with his multi-tool feet. Do not care who dies, Alexa said. They will destroy half this station to reach me. Then let's make sure they do not reach you, Jace replied, The panel clicked and the door slid open. They both slipped inside just as a bolt of red energy scorched the wall behind them. As they climbed into the shaft, Felixa touched his arm again, this time not with emotion but warning. If we survive this, she said, you must know something else. I never told the council the full truth. I never told anyone what I carry inside. Mijachi looked at her confused. What truth? She looked back, her eyes glowing faintly. I do not only carry royal blood, I carry something much more dangerous. Before he could ask what she meant, the shaft shook with a violent explosion, and the emergency doors, sealed them in darkness, escape. And confession, the air inside the emergency shaft was tight and hot. The walls pulsed with backup power and emergency lights blinked weakly. Jace crawled through first, his hand scraping against the rough metal surface behind him. Felixa moved carefully, her breath steady, but her eyes sharp, watching every movement around them. The station was under threat now, not from political confusion, but from shadows trained to kill. In silences, paused at a junction, looking down at a faded map printed on the wall. We need to head toward Sector 9, he said. If we can reach the old security outpost, we might find weapons, or at least a working communicator. Thelakukakutsis nodded, but her mind was far away. Her fingers brushed the walls as if listening to the station's memories. She did not trust these corridors anymore. Too many paths, too many traps. Her enemies were clever, and they knew how to move unseen. As they moved deeper, Felix's voice broke the silence. I should have told you everything from the beginning. Jace looked back, his eyes serious. You were hiding because you had to. I get it, but what did you mean when you said you carry something dangerous? Thalixa hesitated, then stopped walking. She reached into the inner lining of her robe and pulled out a small object. It was shaped like a crystal but glowed like a living flame. The light inside it shifted colors, slow and deep, like something ancient and breathing. This is not just a royal relic, she said. This is the heart of Velan. A living memory core passed from one heir to another. It holds the knowledge of my ancestors. Their thoughts, their voices, their mistakes, and their secrets. Jace stared at it, both awed and confused. Why keep it hidden? Because if it falls into the wrong hands, it can be used to control my people, she said. Her voice had changed now, deeper, stronger. If someone bonds with it through false ritual, they can speak with the voice of the Velan kings even if they are not of the bloodline. And the assassins know about it? Jace asked. They suspect I carry it, Delixa replied, but until now they were not certain. The bond, the ritual energy from your words, may have triggered its awakening. They must have sensed it. Just rubbed the back of his neck. Well, we definitely woke something up. They moved again quickly through the twisting vents, until finally they reached a maintenance ladder that led to the old sector below. Delixa moved ahead, her body more agile than Jace expected, her limbs moving with the grace of someone trained for more than just royal duties. Once on the ground, they found the old security room abandoned but intact. Jace activated the door panel and entered, scanning the dark space for movement. Broken chairs, data pads, dust, everything was still and silent. He found a working console and started it up while Felixa locked the door behind them. You are good at this, she said, watching him type. Being a mechanic on an alien station means knowing how to break into systems just to keep the oxygen flowing. Jace replied with a smirk. It is not exactly legal, but it keeps people breathing. Axa smiled for the first time since their escape. The glow of the console lit her face in soft blue light. They sat in silence for a few moments, catching their breath. Jace leaned back in the chair and looked at Herkin. I asked you something personally, yes, she said softly, when you thought I said that phrase on purpose. What did you feel in that moment? Thalexa looked down at her hands for the first time in many cycles. I felt seen, not as a symbol or a title but as a person. Your words broke through the walls I built around myself. I thought, maybe, just maybe, you knew who I really was and still chose. Mijachi felt a weight in his chest. He never imagined that a simple comment could carry so much meaning to someone. He reached across the table and took her hand gently. I did not understand it then, but I think I do now, he said. And if we survive this, I want to know you more, not because of a phrase or a ritual, but because I want. Tothalex's tentacles moved gently, curving toward his shoulder like a protective instinct. Thank you, Jace. That means more than you know. Suddenly, the console beeped. It had picked up movement in the corridor outside. 6 life forms approaching fast. Their heat signatures were cold, precise. No wasted energy. They found us, Jace said. Lexa stood, her eyes locked on the door. We cannot stay here. We fight, or we Rooney prefer run. Jace replied, but only if we do it smart. He activated the old drone system. One small sphere still had battery power. He sent it through the vent above the door, using the camera feed to watch the hallway. The crimson shades moved like shadows covered in dark armor with red streaks glowing faintly. Their weapons were thin, sharp, and silent. They paused at the hallway. Fork, one of them scanning the air. They are tracking the ritual signature, Thalixa whispered. The bond still lingers on me like a beacon. Jace looked at her. Do you trust me? Yes, she said. Then we split, he said. You go through the maintenance tunnel. I will draw them toward Sector 5 where the radiation leak still confuses scanners. No, she said, you will not survive alone. I have tricks up my sleeve, he smiled. You are the one with the future to protect. She hesitated but then pulled something from her arm. It was a small silver ring covered in symbols. Wear this, she said. If I fall, it will protect your name among my people. Jace took it slowly and nodded. Then, without another word, they separated, running in opposite directions as alarms began to scream across the station. As he ran, Jace felt something shift inside him. He was no longer just a mechanic, no longer just a human on a station full of strangers. He had become part of something bigger, something ancient and dangerous, and possibly something worth fighting for. And deep in the corridor behind her, Thalixa whispered one promise under her breath. I will not lose him. The human choice. Jace ran through the dark corridors of Sector 5, his boots hitting the metal floor with hard echoes. Behind him, the crimson shades were closed, their footsteps light but fast, their tracking skills sharp. Every turn, every shadow could be his last, but he did not stop. His mind was racing, but his goal was clear. Draw them away from Thalixa. Lead them far from the truth, far from the heart of Velen. He ducked into a broken labroom, the walls covered in shattered glass and inactive monitors. Inside, the air was thick with radiation warning signals flashing weakly from the broken panels. This place had suffered a meltdown years ago, but the scanners still picked up false heat and false echoes. Jace reached into his belt and activated the old emergency beacon he had modified last year during a long shift. It was weak, but enough to trick the shades into thinking someone of importance was hiding here. He placed it behind a wall panel and activated the decoy program. Seconds later, the shades entered the lab, their dark forms, like ghosts, moving silently through the debris. One scanned the area and pointed toward the false signal. Jace was already gone, crawling through a forgotten vent above them. He moved fast, ignoring the pain in his shoulder and the cut on his leg from earlier escape. His mind was focused, but a question kept rising, again and again. Why was he doing all this for someone he had known only days ago? When he reached the far end of the vent, he climbed down into a storage bay. The lights flickered, but it was quiet here. He checked the communicator he had taken from the old security office. One bar of signal, weak but usable. He sent a coded message to Thalixa, using the private channel they set up earlier. Just 3 words: safe for now. Then he waited, listening to the metal breathe around him. The silence of the station was different now, no longer peaceful but full of waiting danger across the station. Thalixa received the message while hiding inside an old transport shell. She closed her eyes, relieved, but her heart remained heavy. Jace had risked everything for her, and now he might be marked forever by her people if things went wrong. She reached for the heart of Velen, holding it close, feeling its warmth pulse with each breath. It connected her to generations past, voices, long gone memories, older than empires, and through it she heard whispers of warning and hope, all tangled together. You must make a choice, a voice said in her mind. The bond is not just law, it is legacy. You must not force it. You must not let it destroy him. She opened her eyes and stared into the darkness, thinking hard. Back in the storage bay, Jace heard footsteps approaching, not shades this time, but station guards. Humans from the lower sector who had received his old emergency code signaled. They entered slowly, weapons raised, until they recognized him. Jace Carson, you look like hell, one of them said. I need a favor, Jace said, standing slowly. I need a medical drone and a secure path back to the neutral zone. You found something dangerous, the other asked. I found someone worth saving, Jace answered, and that was enough. Hours later, Jace was in a medical bay, getting treated by an old human medic with shaky hands but sharp eyes. The wound on his leg was deep but clean, and his shoulder had bruised from a fall, but nothing was broken. He looked out the small window toward the outer section of the station where Thalixa might be hiding right now. alone with her memories and her burden. Jace leaned back in the chair, thinking quietly. No one had ever asked him to choose something that mattered before on Earth. He had just moved from one station job to another, fixing parts, being ignored, living without purpose. But now he had a choice, a real one. He could leave the station, take a transport, and disappear safely. His name would be cleared, his life would go on, as if nothing happened, or he could step forward into something uncertain, face laws and traditions that were never his, face danger and politics, and possibly never return home. Again he remembered her eyes when she looked at him, not as a mechanic, not as a human, but as someone who mattered. That memory burned in his chest like fire. The door opened quietly, and a short human officer entered, holding a tablet. To have been cleared of charges. The officer said that Velen Council has been informed. You were unaware of the bonding phrase and acted without intent. They are willing to let you go with no punishment. Just nodded slowly. And what about Hertha? Officer hesitated. She is still under observation, but not in custody. She may be relocated for her safety. No final decision has been made. Then I will make mine, Jace said, standing up. You are free, the officer said, confused. You do not have to go back. I know, Jace replied, but I want to. He left the medical bay and walked alone through the dim corridors until he reached the quiet sanctuary near the edge of the station where no cameras worked and no guards patrolled. He found her there, seated on a low bench under a false sky dome. Her eyes were closed, but she sensed him before he spoke. You came back, she said without opening her eyes. I had a choice, he said, and I chose you. Alexa opened her eyes slowly, and the tension in her shoulders faded. I am not asking you to bind your life to mine, she said softly. I only ask that you stand beside me, not because of law or accident, but because you want to. Jace reached into his pocket and pulled out the silver ring she had given him earlier. He placed it on the bench between them. Then let us write our own law, he said. Just you and Mesh smiled, and for the first time in a long time her tentacles moved with peace. But their peace was short, for above them the outer sensors detected a new ship entering orbit, one that flew no known flag and carried no welcome signals. Something was coming, and it would test every choice they had made. The alien ceremony. The new ship that entered orbit above the station was not marked by any known alliance. No banners, no beacons, no greeting codes, just a cold, silent presence that watched from above, and the senses of the station could not pierce its outer shell. Its shape was unfamiliar, long and curved like a creature from the deep void, and it made the command center uneasy inside the sanctuary beneath the false sky dome. Alexa felt the shift before the alarms even started. Her fingers trembled for a moment, then curled back around the heart of Velen. Jace was standing near, his eyes focused on the soft artificial stars above. They are here for me, she said quietly. Not the council, not the station, not even the bond. They are here for what I carry. Then we stop running, Jace replied from Lith. Alexa turned to him. The council has summoned us. They know about the approaching ship. They want to proceed with the bonding ceremony. They believe the ritual will bind me officially and offer political shield. You mean turn our accidental moment into a public alliance? Jace asked. Yes, she said. They believe that if we perform the ritual fully, the station will recognize me as royal by right and you as chosen partner under ancient law that would give protection by treaty, but also responsibility by tradition. Jace exhaled slowly. So we do this in front of everyone with the same phrase, I said, by mistake, but this time with intent. Not just the phrase, Alexa said. We must share energy through the heart of Velen. It will accept or reject us based on truth, not words. They've prepared for the ceremony in silence. The royal chamber was activated in the oldest part of the station, built before humans had ever set foot on its decks. Its walls were lined with symbols glowing in soft amber light, and floating stones hummed in perfect rhythm. Jace wore a simple robe of black and silver, the traditional colors of neutral blood, standing for one who had no house of origin. Alexa wore violet and gold, the ancient royal colors. Her eyes were calm, but her fingers were tight around the heart. The council watched from behind a transparent barrier, their faces hidden by masks of tradition. Warriors, advisors, elders, all gathered to witness what might change the course of many paths. Jace and Alexa stepped onto the central platform where energy swirled around them in slow spirals. The heart floated between them, rising gently and pulsing like a living sun. Alexa spoke first. I am Alexa, daughter of fire and seaholder of the memory flame. I call upon the bond, not to bind but to choose. I offer truth and wait for truth in return. Jace spoke carefully. I am Jace Carson, child of Earthbearer of no throne. I come not with promise, but with will. I offer choice and wait for its answer. The heart flared brighter, and the room grew still there. Hands reached toward it together, fingers brushing light. The moment they touched it, the energy surged, not with violence but with weight. It was not a ceremony, it was a question. Memories filled Jace's mind, not his, but hers, a child hiding in a burning palace, a voice singing in sorrow, a promise made to stars, and then feelings, not memories, hope, fear, loneliness, and a fragile thread of longing. Lexa saw his past to a small home full of silence, a young boy fixing broken toys, a man drifting between jobs, a soul looking for a reason to stay. They both stepped back at the same moment. Breathless, the heart faded into stillness, and the chamber lights returned to normal. The elder standing at the edge spoke. The bond has not failed, but it is incomplete. The choice remains open. Lexa turned to Jace, then to the council. I do not wish to seal this bond by law, not today, not with fear pressing at our door. I wish for him to choose freely when no threat hangs above you, as the council murmured, but did not object. The elder nodded. Respect for will is the first law of ancient Velen. Let it be so. But just as the chamber lights dimmed and the ritual closed, the alarm sirens roared again. The unknown ship had launched drones, hundreds of them, each one shaped like a blade, each one aimed toward the station Kortha. Crimson Shades returned not as assassins but as servants of the ship. Their purpose now was clear, not just silence, but Tychovergis and Thalik were pulled from the chamber by guards rushing them through hidden passages toward the inner defense ring. Chaos erupted across the station as drones sliced through hulls and security lines failed inside. The command bay. Jace grabbed an old ring from the wall while Falixa linked with the station grid, using the heart to access control systems from before any human upgrades. She moved with speed and focus, directing power toward shield nodes, isolating breach points. Jace stood beside her, firing when enemies came too close. The two moved like one, not as bonded by law but by decision. A drone burst through the ceiling, aiming for the heart. Falixa dodged and fell. Jace leaped forward, shielding her, with his body taking the impact of the blast and sending the drone crashing into a control panel. Falixa screamed his name and caught him before he hit the floor. His chest was burned, his side torn, but he was breathing barely. Chose me, Jace whispered, his voice weak and shaking. You did not have to, but you did. Lexa looked down at him, her eyes full of something ancient and powerful. I do not need a ceremony to know what is true. I choose you, with or without the stars watching. She placed the heart into his palm and whispered the final phrase, not for law, not for council, but for him. And the heart glowed brighter than ever before, filling the room with light above them. The ship in orbit paused, its signal disrupted its purpose, shaken by the response from the old Kortha. Drones froze in place as if hearing a command from deeper than thought, and then one by one they powered down. The battle ended, not with force, but with something stronger, a choice fully made, and finally understood together by choice. The station was quiet now, but the silence was heavy with the weight of what had passed. Jace lay on a cot in the healing bay, his body still weak from the wounds. Lexa sat beside him, her tentacles resting gently on his arm, as if to remind him he was not alone. The heart of Velen glowed softly on the table between them, a symbol of everything they had survived and everything they had chosen. Jace opened his eyes slowly. The room was filled with soft light and the steady hum of healing machines. He looked at Lexa, and for the first time saw her not as a mystery or a royal, but as a person, someone real and fragile. How do you feel? He asked, his voice rough but steady. Better than I expected, she replied, smiling softly. It seems the bond is stronger when made by choice, not by accident. Jace nodded, his fingers moved to touch the glowing crystal. The memories had not left him. They still flickered inside his mind like distant stars, but now they were joined with his own thoughts, his own hope. Looked away for a moment, then she turned back and said, there is something I need to tell you, something that no one else knows. Jace's brow furrowed. What is it? She hesitated, then whispered, the heart of Velen is not just a memory, it is a living part of my people's soul. It carries their will, their fears, their love, but it also carries a curse. The last bond it accepted before I escaped was broken by violence and hatred, and that curse follows me wherever I go. Jace's eyes widened. A curse? What kind of curse? Alex's voice was low and steady. It means that if the bond is forced or broken without true consent, those involved suffer great pain and loss. It can tear families apart, destroy clans, and bring ruin to entire worlds. But we made the bond freely, he said, holding her hand gently. That means the curse will not touch. Ustri smiled with tears in her eyes. Yes, It means hope days passed and the station began to recover, but Jace and Thelixa stayed close, learning to trust each other beyond words and rituals. Their bond grew not from laws but from shared moments, from quiet conversations, from laughter and from fear. Faced together one evening as the station's false sun set behind the windows, Thelixa leaned her head on Jace's shoulder and whispered, "I am glad you told me about your world, your struggles, your dreams. I want to know everything." Thinkes smiled, "I want to know yours, to know more secrets, know more hidden hearts." Together, they looked out at the stars, knowing that whatever came next, they would face it as equals, not bound by accident but by choice. Far away in the dark void, the unknown ship retreated, its mission failed but not forgotten. The galaxy was watching, and the story of a human and an alien girl who chose each other against all odds was only just beginning. The end.